I wondered for the last 2.5 years how I would feel.
After 4 grueling days of testimony and 15 hours of deliberation, a verdict was finally reached. Janet Hinds, the woman charged in the death of CPD Officer Nicholas Galinger, found guilty of vehicular homicide by intoxication. She was convicted on 8 of the 10 charges she faced. Eric Benninghoff has an inside look on how this trying week came to a close.
A long time ago, they told me it gets easier as time goes by. I don't think it does.
An agonizing week for these families comes to an end.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Janet Elaine Hinds, guilty of vehicular homicide by intoxication.
Janet Hinds drops her head as the verdict is read out.
In the beginning, I said someday Janet Hinds is going to have to face for what she did, and today's that day.
After 2.5 years in limbo, today brings Nicholas Galinger's father some sense of closure.
I wondered for the last 2.5 years how I would feel.
But it doesn't bring his son back.
I go to bed thinking of him, I dream of him, and I wake up with him in my mind every morning.
A reminder that in cases like this, there are no winners.
I just wish I wasn't standing here right now. Tragedy for both families. Tragedy.
Today, a verdict reached, and this father, son, and brother remembered. In Chattanooga, Eric Benninghoff, News Channel 9.
District Attorney Neil Pinkston says Hinds faces a potential prison sentence of 8 to 12 years for vehicular homicide by intoxication. She was taken into temporary custody after the verdict, but she will be able to return home on house arrest until that sentencing once the details of her bond are confirmed. The judge set her sentencing hearing for November 1st.
The jury has been deliberating for over 3 hours at this point, and of course right now it's just a waiting game. Right here we are outside of the court, and in the meantime we've spoken with defense attorney Bill Speak, who's not involved with this trial, but we spoke with him about the charges and potential sentencing that Hinds could face. Now, he reminded us that not all accidents involving death rise to the level of a crime. Of course, there are certain elements that need to be proven by the state beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, of all the potential charges that Hinds faces now, Bill Speak said that the only one with mandatory prison time is vehicular homicide by intoxication. Now, one of the main questions the jury has to consider with this charge is whether Hinds was intoxicated at the time of the accident and whether that was a contributing factor in the cause of Nicholas Galinger's death. Attorney Speak told us that vehicular homicide by intoxication has a minimum prison time of 8 years and maximum of 12 years. With all the other potential charges, any prison or probation time would be up to the discretion of the judge during a sentencing hearing, which happens at a later date. That's all we've learned for now. We'll be keeping you posted here. We are outside of the courtroom. Prosecutors say since Janet Hinds left the scene, there was no chance to check her blood alcohol level at the time of the accident.
Do you swear affirm testimony about to give this cause is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you guys?
I do.
That left the state's TBI toxicology expert with the job of making a retroactive estimate.
Did you get some certain pieces of information from the Chattanooga Police Department?
I was supplied with the approximate number of drinks that a person had, as well as the sex of that individual, and then we estimated the size.
The number he came to, somewhere between 0.14 and 0.18. The legal limit while driving in Tennessee, 0.08. But the defense poked holes in this calculation, noting that it didn't even use Hinds' correct weight.
This is the first incidents that I've been involved in where there was no alcohol testing, period, and we had to calculate both ends of it.
He is using averages, Judge. That should be abundantly clear to the court. He is not using any actual data that relates to this defendant or anyone else.
The second issue at hand today was speed. CPT's Joe Warren led the crash investigation in this case.
In this particular case, this vehicle is straddling that or on top of that double yellow line, taking up both lanes.
Warren says Officer Galinger was thrown 160 feet upon impact, which is part of how he estimated the speed of Hinds' car at 15 to 20 miles per hour over the speed limit. Medical examiner Stephen Cogswell backed that number up based on his autopsy of Galinger.
If the windshield is here where my hand is, his upper torso strikes the hood, his face and head strike the windshield.
But the defense attacked the objectivity of Warren's investigation on other points, presenting social media posts they say showed bias.
At this point, you had taken off your investigator hat less than 36 hours after the incident, and you had put on your prosecutor hat.